Hey folks, on this week's episode, I'll be up at Blue Heron Resort at the mouth of the Spanish River in Ontario's Algoma country. It was a beautiful day with no wind, so I decided to venture out into Georgian Bay's North Channel. There's no way you could fish all of the available water, and that's exactly why I like this part of the world. I looked at the Navionics mapping and decided to fish an area dotted with shallow rock humps with scattered weeds. Even though it was midsummer, it was like I had all of the water to myself. I didn't even see any other boats for miles fishing. It was like dying and going to heaven. Wow. That is a fish of a lifetime. There we go, boy. Wow, that thing is a monster. They fight hard, don't they?
Look at that magnificent fish.
Look at the size of that fish.
There he is again.
The color is incredible. Oh, there we go.
The Real Fishing Show with Bob Azumi.
Big old Great Lakes smallmouth. That is a big rainbow trout, Chris. Nice double-header.
Whoa! Nice jump.
Yeah. All right. That is a monster smallmouth. Man, that is so cool. Another one. There we go. The biggest pike I've ever caught. Look at that chunk. So that's what we're talking about.
Real Fishing is sponsored by Mercury, Go Boldly, Berkeley, Catch More Fish, and Abu Garcia for life.
On the Real Fishing Show, we make catching fish like this a possibility. Oh, you got him. Whoa. That's cool. I looked up and all of a sudden I saw a big black smallmouth on this rock. And one of the things about fishing clear water situations is you always want to keep your eyes open for fish. And I just worked the outside edge of this little rock island here. No hits on a crankbait. And as I came up on the shelf, I saw this big smallmouth just cruising. And oh, there's another one following it too. And I dropped this drop shot down for this fish here, and it just nailed it. One thing about I've learned my lesson over the years, but I still do it sometimes. I get excited and I horse them. When you're using a little, say, size 1 or 1/0 drop shot hook, you want to use a fairly soft action rod like I've got here. It's a little fusion drop shot hook. And you don't want to horse them. You want to just bring them in, wear them out, then get them into the net. And that's not a bad little chunky smallmouth right there. And you can see where that hook is, and you'll see how easy this hook will come out. So this little Maxent flatworm here, okay, watch how easy this hook comes out, but I kept pressure on it. That's it. So by keeping pressure on a small wire hook like this, say this is actually a size 1 drop shot hook, by keeping pressure on it, you just get that fish into the boat. Okay, we'll put this one back. See you later, bud. Let's see if that other fish hung around, or did it move off? Throw this up here. See, maybe it's down with that one. A lot of times, you know, they'll hang around because they're in, you know, little pods. Could be, you know, 2 or 3 fish together, and in that case, it had a buddy with it. So I'm just gonna take it off anchor mode. There we go again, another fish. Look at that, first drop down. Oh, it's a good one again. It's almost like it was just hanging around there waiting. Probably going, hey, where'd my buddy go? And now it bit too. And this is without a doubt one of the coolest drop shot baits I've ever used. And it comes in like black, green pumpkin, goby, all the really good colors that you want for smallmouth fishing in clear water. And what I like about it is that they're all subtle colors. That's what I like for this clear water fishing for smallmouth. And another thing too is you gotta go with an invisible leader, and I'm using 100% trilene fluorocarbon leader. And the key here is you want a subtle approach. Oh yeah, that one's a little bit fatter than the other one. Look at hook just through the top of the lip once again. Hook pops out. Nice smallmouth. All right, get that one back in the water. See, bud. And I'll just show you this setup because this is such a simple setup and it's so effective for fishing anywhere there's clear water smallmouth. Inland lakes, the Great Lakes. And here's the thing now. I'm using a main line, which is a no stretch fire line here that doesn't stretch on a medium action spinning rod. Got my fluorocarbon leader, and I've got about 3 feet of fluorocarbon on, 8-pound test. To it, a number 1 hook tied up your line. You leave a tag end, and in this case, I've got a 1/4 ounce drop shot weight, and this is a cylinder type weight. It's an ultra tungsten weight, so it's very dense yet small. And the cylinder weight's a good one for either casting or vertical fishing because it doesn't hang up much, but it weighs a lot for the size of it. And that's a 1/4 ounce weight. So you got this drop shot weight bouncing on bottom, and then you've got this little subtle, in this case, black flatworm just subtly just sort of wavering in. And that's basically a drop shot rig. Very effective. I mean, you can catch panfish with this, walleye with this, but smallmouth bass in clear water, this is the bread and butter right here.
Coming up.
Once again, I missed them, dropped back. Whoa, jumper. Oh, it come off. It come off. So I'm gonna throw the drop shot out now and just see if there was more with it or not. First cast with the drop shot. Oh, this one here is just a wee fella. Oh, there's another follower. Small though. Just pulled off. They're spitting up bait. So they're obviously feeding around these little islands here. Okay. I'm fishing this little rock island here, and all of a sudden with polarized glasses, I see a high spot out here. All of a sudden the water's light out here in the deeper water. And so I throw my lipless crankbait on a long cast just off the tip of this shallow hump that's out here. It's not out of the water, and bang, this thing hit. Let's see. Oh, nice one. So fat one there. Hard to boat flip them on crankbaits because a lot of times, you know, they got those little trebles in. You don't want to rip them out of the fish's mouth. There we are. And see, there's a case in point where the crankbait just came out of the fish's mouth. So we've got bass here, and I kept that pressure with that long crankbait rod there, that fiberglass crankbait rod, and kept the pressure on. And one thing about it is a long, soft rod for treble hook lures, whether you're, you know, fishing crankbait and smallmouth like I'm doing right now, or even trolling with planer boards for walleyes, a longer, stiffer rod is good to hold those treble hooks in a fish's mouth. Just keeps constant pressure on them. Get this bait untangled and get back to work here. There is unlimited water to fish in Georgian Bay. The North Channel that is connected to the Spanish River is a massive area. There's lots of species to target in both open and protected water. I will say that having good cartography makes all the difference in the world. Since I have never fished the spots I fished on today's show, I first used my Navionics mapping to find them before I even left the dock. Personally, I would never venture out on this water without my GPS mapping, as navigation can be tricky, weaving through narrows, islands, and humps. Without this amazing technology, it would be like driving your car down the highway with blinders on. He's back. Once again, I missed him, dropped back, and it hit. That was just too cool. That was so funny. And I didn't pull it too far out of the strike zone, which is important. And now on this drop shot rig, of course, it's definitely a lighter rod action as well with the thin wire hook. This is just a small guy here, it's not very big. But you wanna use just a lighter action. That fish just spit up some bait just now, some sort of minnow it looked like. Yesterday I was fishing, they were spitting up crayfish, and today I'm seeing a lot more, you know, silvery bait fish coming up out of their mouths. So they definitely are not lacking any food. They've been busy chomping. Hey folks, stay tuned. We'll be right back with some more real smallmouth fishing after this.
Coming up.
See that fat belly? That's a pretty fat one, you know, for the area I'm fishing.
Let's take a look down under with this week's Fish Eye View, sponsored by Mercury. Go boldly. Opening day. More than anything else, those two words get an angler's blood flowing. Anyone with any fishing experience knows precisely what this means. It's the first day of the fishing season according to local laws. And more importantly, it's the very first chance to get a crack at all those undisturbed fish following a painfully long hiatus. Wherever you live, there are several opening days each year, specific to species and varying according to location. The big ones have always been the trout, walleye, and bass openers. Dates that serious fishermen mark on calendars and count the days down to. For anyone who's participated in one of these frantic rituals, it comes as no surprise when confronted with plenty of company on that big day. A better plan is to do a little preseason scouting a day or two in advance. Look for less popular locations that are off the beaten path. You just might discover a glory hole like this all to yourself. If you do land in a crowd, expect the fish to be turned off shortly after sunrise. Whatever you're after, see what everyone else is using, then change it up. Try finessing the fish using light lines and radically different baits. Be unique and turn that next opening day into one you'll never forget.
Whoa. That one hammered that crankbait. I just did a real long cast in there, and whammo. Spitting up bait too as I'm coming in here. Spitting up all kinds of bait. Boy, they're putting the feed bag on. You know, we went through a spell of some really hot weather. I mean, it was like, you know, in the 90s for about a week. And then now it's cooled down, and what I think's happened is those fish were just on a non-stop buffet for about a week, and they probably are still on that, not quite on, they're on the tail end of that feeding binge. This rod is just bent like a big C because it's really cool. Unlike the graphite rods, it's very soft action to absorb these fish when you're fighting them. And it's funny because Fenwick made a crankbait rod back in the, gosh, in the 80s, and they still offer this particular rod, the lunker stick, which is pretty cool. And You know, it's heavier than a graphite rod in terms of weight, but boy, it's definitely a soft action rod when it comes to fighting fish. There we go. Nice. And it's like a giant shock absorber for these bass. And just pull this out. Yes. It's nice to have all your tools handy when you're fishing, just because you want to get that bait out of the fish's mouth. And look at that, see that fat belly? That's a pretty fat one, you know, for the area I'm fishing. And definitely not been missing a lot of meals. Hey, bud. They're going straight down. It's going down like this. Okay. One of the things, an attribute of a good vibrating crankbait is that it's got some weight to it so you can cast it. This is 1/2 ounce. It's got the vibrating action. Now this one here's got rattles. So it makes a lot of noise and good sharp hooks. These fusion hooks are very sharp. They're very thin wire black nickel hooks, and boy, do they ever, you know, get into a fish's mouth. So, see if he's got a buddy up there. You know, you've got the best of both worlds when it comes to watercolor fishing at Blue Heron Resort. Right at the resort, you've got the Spanish River, and you've got that off-colored, sort of tea-colored water there. And if you go out into the bigger water, say of the North Channel or onto North Lake Huron, you've got gin clear water. So I like fishing both colors of water, but let's talk about the clear water where I'm catching some of those big smallmouth and pike. When it comes to fishing, you want to fill your reel up. I see this all the time where a lot of folks don't have their bait cast or spinning reel properly filled. I like to fill my reels quite substantial, and the reason I like to do that is I get a longer cast. In clear water conditions, it's much better to get a longer cast. Whether you're wacky rigging, say this General on the spinning outfit, or you're using the bait caster with a crankbait or a topwater lure, it doesn't really matter. Is if you've got a lot of line on, you're gonna get a longer cast. There's less friction on a fixed spool like a spinning reel with a thinner diameter line that's filled up to say a 1/16 of an inch or even an 1/8 of an inch from the lip. Also on a bait caster, you're gonna get a longer cast and a faster retrieve with the more line you have on, because it just adds more bulk to the spool. So next time you're out there, remember, lighter line, fill your reels up properly, you'll get longer casts in that clear water and catch a few more fish.
Coming up.
A lipless crankbait, steady retrieve catches them, you know, but Blue Heron Resort is located in Ontario's Algoma country. It's just over a 5-hour drive northwest of the city of Toronto. This is a family-friendly resort that has clean and comfortable cabins. There's boat rentals, docks, and a ramp available. It's a drive-to location with endless fishing opportunities. Whoa, baby. Whoa. I just come off this shallow rock shoal. I threw a cast off the point of it, and all of a sudden, something hits it from behind. A lot of times, smallmouth hit it a lot different. Pike seem to hit a crankbait. A lot of times, they'll knock slack in your line. There it is. Whoa! Yeah, they'll knock slack in the line. But this thing here, it just hit it almost like it came up from behind the crankbait like this and punched it towards me. Get in here, Mr. Pike. Whoa. Uh-oh. Whoops. He's gone. Every now and then I'm pausing my retrieve, but for the most part, a lipless crankbait, steady retrieve catches them, you know, but every now and then I'll just pause it and just to see what happens. But just gonna throw a drop shot rig in just where that fish hit, just to see if there's, oh, just lost my weight in there. No, I lost my bait in there. I thought, so there are fish in there. Aha, okay. These almost look like a leech, these little flatworms here. Pretty subtle looking. So there's a flat side to it, and I'm actually hooking it flat side up. So it's on the hook like this. Very subtle. So let's see if we can catch one. Cast right backward. I thought I was hung up. Then I came back with no bait. So I'm casting right up into the shallow, clear rocks of this island here. There we go. Oh, I lost him. I lost him. He's back again. Let's see. I don't think it's a big one now. It's not very big. Just because I don't want to pull them off, I'll just put them in the net. I want to save my bait. A lot of times they'll jump and they'll spit the bait out. So this one here, definitely. I carry, some different size needle nose, and I'll also have some longer Cuda ones just in case they get a little bit deeper and I need to take the hook out, or if I get a pike on, I like the longer nose pliers. There we are. Bambino smallmouth. See you, buddy. Now, I wonder, is there more fish? See, when you miss one and keep working your bait, a lot of times, what a lot of people will do is they'll miss a fish and they'll reel up really quick. Never do that. Try to keep your bait in the strike zone, even if you miss one, because if there's more fish in there, then they might get all crazy and a little bit of a feeding frenzy, and they might start fighting over it. And even if you set the hook and pull it 10 feet out of that strike zone, they may rush over in this crystal clear water and get your bait. So a lot of times, leave the bait down there after you miss one, because it doesn't matter what species it is, it might turn around and come back, or its buddies might hit your bait after you sting it and miss it on a hook set.
Real Fishing was sponsored by Mercury, Go Boldly, Berkeley, Catch More Fish, and Abu Garcia for life.
Well, that thing's got some weight to it. Size of that puppy right there. That is just wild.
Man.
Beautiful, beautiful. What
Look at the size of that thing.